It was just really special for me because it was such a learning experience, and I was like, emotions were running high because I was really nervous. And I watched it, I cried all the way through it, watching it the first time. I cried while I was writing it. I was in tears, like typing. And then when I went back to watch it, I cried again. And then when I watched it on Toonami, I cried again. So I love crying. And that's why Call Me Got Kill is my favorite.
Mine is actually an indie project that I'm actually still finishing up that Caitlin Barr is also in with me. It is a visual novel known as Carpe Diem Reboot. And I play the main AI named I, go figure. It's a it starts very stereotypical, like anime, girl makes herself real, but it takes a very dark, dystopian cyberpunk twist, and I very rarely get to explore a lot of the darker sides of technology. With anime, you get stuck in genres and little spots where you oftentimes play a type. So it was the first time I got to play my type, but take it in a new direction. And I love the character I've spent way too much time with her, and it's a very beautiful game, and I'm really happy I actually decided to do it online.
I have two. One was an anime that I directed called Interviews with Monster Girls. Thank you. It's just so sweet and special, and I just love the characters, and I loved the cast, and I loved that I had already had one show under my belt, so I felt a little better in that area. So if you haven't seen that one, I really highly recommend it. It's very adorable. And then another was, since we're all talking about theater up here,
yes.
I got to do a tour of a children's show called Stuart Little. And so I did a national tour, so it's already such a sweet story, but like just doing that project on a whole just was actually completely life-changing, like in so many ways. So I definitely have to say that one.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. My question is for all of you. As voice actors, where do you go to personally to try and come up with a different voice or character depending on your anime or work that you're working on?
What about choosing her?
How do you come up with...
We're starting with me. Okay. I mean, auditions don't happen that much anymore, I feel like, but when they do, I feel like looking at the picture, it just does so much for me. Just is seeing and even when you're in the booth, when you're just watching it, like seeing the visualization of that just helps bring so much to it to me. And then you kind of can play with it from there. And sometimes, there's descriptions and whatnot, and you can kind of drive it this way and drive it that way and just kind of play with tone and all that. But for me, I guess it starts kind of with the image.
Mine's actually a really nerdy answer. I love playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I love creating characters, and every time I create a character, I want them to be completely different than the last. So that requires me to find a new voice for them each time. And a lot of times when I go into an audition or I look at a role, I kind of try to identify them with some character I've already played and start there and build out from there. Not only is it really good improv practice for me, but it also helps me relate more to the character that I'm supposed to be playing as well. So I play a lot of D&D.
It's really similar to my answer. I'll try to say, when I get a new character, it's like, okay, so it's kind of like this one that I've done, but make it more funny, or make it a little higher pitched, or add a lilt to the voice or something. I always, because you don't want to just do it an impersonation or copy someone else, but if you can pull it from like, oh, this reminds me of this person that I know, and make it your own, like, oh, it's kind of like this lady that I work with, but it's more like me. So marry the two and come up with something completely new. Because like I said, nobody wants to just hear a total copy of something else.
Specifically in dealing with the realm of creating a character in an anime, I'll do a little bit of just basic online research as to a simple paragraph description of the character. And then, like Jade said pretty much, I'm very much driven by the image, by the visual. And especially since in dubbing, we usually watch the scene, so it's how the character looks, it's the style of the animation, it's the actions he's engaging in and the way his face is. It's like all of a sudden my muscles know how, my brain and muscles work together to all of a sudden create this character. It's a very hard process to explain, but that's the best I can do.
Yeah, basically what he said. But I would say it definitely starts with, because I don't go home and just create necessarily character voices that are for anime. Like if I'm playing around with my voice, I'm like, it's usually doing something stupid, like, oh, I saw a stupid looking dog, so I'm making a stupid voice for the dog. Like, well, no, like no, like you see something and you're all like, oh, look at that little guy, it's not, I'm not like specifically being like, this is going to be an anime voice one day, but like, what it ends up being is like, so I do have like these default characters for improv that I slip into, like one of them's called Marvin, and he like talks like this like all the time, but it's not something that I would use for an anime, but like, so I guess I have voices, but they're not something that I like necessarily go out of my way and think, for the next for the next character I'm cast as, I'm going to try and use a voice like this. It really does depend on what the character looks like, and I wouldn't say I ever form a character voice before like looking at the character and finding out how they behave and what's their motivation and stuff like that. It's all very much driven by what the character is doing. So I wouldn't say I come out with character voices outside like before. So, but like once I'm there, see the character, or if I know the character name, I can look up like what they're about, and I can figure out something for around there.
Yeah, and another aspect of at least working at Sentai or something like that, a lot of the times you get told you're here for this many hours, but they don't tell you the show or the character. So you're doing all of this as soon as you get there. You're like, here's the character, here's what they look like. And that's kind of me the same way as what Chris said. He just looks up a really quick thing. So like sometimes you'll know in advance what you're going in for, and that's when I tend to go into like watching a couple episodes of the show and seeing what the character's about, or like looking up a general description. But a lot of the times it's just you get in the booth and you see them, and then you just kind of go from there. So that's pretty much what I do. If they look like a younger character, I'm like, I have a pretty young voice, but like sometimes I'll pitch it up a little bit. I can't go that much lower, but sometimes it calls for it. But I mean, yeah, that's pretty much for me. I'm just a very visual person. I get into the booth, I see what they look like, and I just kind of play around in my range to see what tends to match the best with that.
Ditto.
Yeah, I think I definitely start with attributes like Chris was saying, and like see like where like their background and like figure out what that character is. But I create character voices a lot in the same way that I create a character on stage or for TV or film, where I'm a very physical person. Meaning like I will like knowing how a character stands or knowing where they hold tension in their body will tell me where they hold like where the breath lands when they speak. So have like, I don't know, like I guess echoing what they're saying, like looking at a character and seeing how they move and what they look like. Yeah, and I will also emulate that in the stage, like in the booth. Like if my character has a shaky gun hand, then I'm also going to do a shaky gun hand. Like there's just, I don't know, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Question, man.
Hi there. This one's mostly directed at Yuki from Wolf Children. Ame is not where he belongs. It's, I don't know, like, it's just really sad, the ending. I don't know if you felt it also. Like, you guys as voice actors, you create these characters, you make their voices heard. Do you guys, like, not, I don't know, since you grow with them and you basically give them their voice, when it comes to their ending, do you really all the time feel satisfied with it, or no?
I don't know that I can. Okay, I guess there's an ending, but I don't know that it like ends in my heart. It sounds all cheesy or whatever. Sometimes there's parts of the journey that I don't agree with, but in that case in particular, like I mean, you say he's not where he belongs, but like I think, in my opinion, he is where he belongs because he's following his heart, just like Yuki's following her heart. You know, even though it breaks my heart for their mom, like 100%, like that performance is so heartbreaking to see her like hear him howl in the distance and just get all teary-eyed. But I don't know, I sort of loved how it was open-ended.
Yeah.
And how you didn't really necessarily know for sure like where the end of the journey was, but that they were continuing on and both following their hearts.
I think it is hard to say it doesn't end, especially because so many seasons of anime, you'll get only one season with the intent of making a second one, and when it never comes around, you're left on that cliffhanger or hoping there's more. So there's a lot of
Crazy
times.
open ends.
Yeah, there's a lot of times I'm left unsatisfied, not knowing where my character's going, and it's cool because my imagination can go there and think of, oh, well, what's next for them, or what would be the next journey, but at the same time, I don't have the answers, which is really unfortunate, and I have to kind of sit there and wait, or never get the answer, and that stinks. So yeah, sometimes it's really hard to deal with. And I'm gonna run to the bathroom, y'all. Where's it at?
Right around the corner.
You guys are awesome.
Just run in circles.
That'll go well for me.
I play a lot of really mean, horrible, evil characters who die, so usually I'm pretty happy with the ending.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Yep. So
Yeah.
I've been like, I think my most frustrating experience is, well, Air Gear was a big one. Also, the fact that I've been waiting 10 years to find out what's going to happen between Sosuke and Full Metal Panic and Kaname, but I think we're about to finally solve all that riddle. So anyway, yes, all the time we get frustrated by the endings. But as right when you asked that question, it's funny because she leaned over to me and she was like, we do, I was like, it is frustrating. And she goes, but that's not our job. Yeah. And that's the truth. Like, you just have to like suck it up and roll with it. But anyway.
The English dub is not meant to recreate anything, so we have to, like, it's always staying true. We're not going to rewrite something unless it's ghost stories, obviously. I mean, but like, with any show, like that you're going to, whether it be like, you know, theater or anime, you're given these characters, you have to respect these characters, and no matter how frustrating something that your character is doing makes you, it's not something you really dwell on because it's not your choice. Like, we are pretty much tools, and like, yes, we use our emotion, right? we use our voice. We give the character a voice, and we use our emotions to make sure that it comes through. But I wouldn't ever presume to be a writer. And like, if I did, I'd be sure it's my own characters. But I'm not going to presume to know, you know, what the mangaka was thinking when they wrote this, or if it wasn't based on a manga, like what the director and writer were originally thinking. So I just have to, you know, stay true to the story, no matter how frustrating that may be. For instance, I wish Rika would, you know, snap out of it and kiss a boy already, but you know, it's not gonna happen. She too awkward.
Yeah, I guess most of the shows that I've done, my characters, either because we haven't gotten to the next season, like with Food Wars or something like that, where I guess all of my characters just kind of end on a, but there's more note, and so it's just kind of like, yeah. I do know that like with Monster Musume or with Dungeon or like any of the shows where I play a character that has me going into the booth like a frequent amount of times, I do definitely feel like a sense of like, I just did all this hard work and it's all finally done and gonna come to fruition once it's released. And it's just kind of like every new show, it just comes down to like, I'm done. And that was a good show, everyone. Like kind of like you're wrapping like a theater show or something, I guess. I don't know, but that's pretty much my extent of it, I guess.
That you was going to go ditto.
What was the question again?
Do you get upset? I guess like when your character makes choices that maybe you wouldn't make, or that frustrate you, or you are like left unsatisfied by the ending of.
Yes, whenever my character gets killed, I'm very unsatisfied.
Yeah, to kind of echo what Caitlin French said, like I'm super pissed whenever like we finish the first season and like there's a good big journey ahead, and then the studio in Japan goes bankrupt, and we get nothing. But beyond that, like, and I don't, yeah, because you go in, you do your acting, and then you have to leave it there, otherwise you'll drive yourself crazy. And then beyond that, without giving away anything, because I don't want to spoil this series, because it's really good, but this one particular series, like everyone's dropping like flies, and my character made it to episode 11 and then got shot in the head. And I was like, come on, man! So close to making that out alive. Anyway.
Thank you.
Hi. Do you remember any of the weirdest lines that you've had to say, or like the weirdest scenarios that your character has been in?
I have. Well, actually, no, that's not appropriate because it's Monster Musume related, and it's not appropriate.
It's the entire show. It's the entire
Yeah.
show. Beginning to end.
It's a PG panel. I guess.
I mean, quickly yell. I had a scene in Turco when I was running down the side of a plateau, down the side of a mountain, and I had to like screaming quickly in matching flaps say the phrase, "It's a strategic withdrawal, but a strategic withdrawal at maximum speed." and it scarred me, and that's why I can remember that phrase.
All the ones I thought of are inappropriate.
Yeah, all the ones that I have are awful.
I think actually one of my favorite weird lines comes from Say I Love You. And it's after this really great moment where the girl and guy get together, the guy's left, and you're hearing the girl's monologue, and she's like,